Welcome to Fleet News Podcast. I'm Caroline Falls, and today I'm going to be talking with Abbas from last mile delivery specialist ANC Delivers. Mo is the group's strategy and marketing executive. I first met Mo at an event in Sydney last year when ANC launched a trial of electric three-wheeled tuk-tuks with their client IKEA. We can talk about that and something else ANC is playing a role in promoting World EV Day and ipso facto electric vehicles. Welcome, Mo.
Thank you, Caroline, and thanks for hosting me today. I'm delighted to be talking today.
So as I said, ANC Delivers is on board with World EV Day, which is being recognised on Saturday, September 9, and I understand that ANC is set to launch a new website on that day to take the pledge. So before we talk about that, though, the latest iteration and the basis for your campaign, can we just step back to ANC's involvement in World EV Day, which I think only started a few years ago in 2020. So, Mo, if you can tell us more about the original World EV Day and how you became involved in it, please.
Certainly, Caroline. Look, World EV Day, it's now in its fourth year, and World EV Day, in essence, unites companies and individuals, policymakers and thought leaders, in fact, for a day of activations and announcements that continue to propel the e-mobility movement across the globe. Previously, World EV Day gained attention of global political leaders, including being discussed in the UK Parliament. It was celebrated by the White House's top climate advisors in 2022 and achieved over 300 million Twitter impressions, with the likes of Ford, ABB, LeasePlan, and many others joining to celebrate e-mobility as a movement. ANC decided to partner with World EV Day as it gives us a platform and an opportunity to be part of a truly global initiative as we bring people together to continue to drive change throughout society, as well as embrace e-mobility. We have a bias towards action. We're delighted that World EV Day and Electric Drives, which is a subsidiary of World EV Day, has the same common goal, and that is to unite people around electrification and the energy transition.
Cool. So now can you tell me more about what you're doing this World EV Day?
Yeah, 100%. Look, it's quite a special campaign and one that's near and dear to my heart, Caroline. So on the 9th of September, and in celebration for World EV Day, we're launching a nationwide campaign to encourage companies across Australia and in fact further abroad to take the pledge and commit to adding zero-emission vehicles to their fleet so that we can support sustainable transport practices. We built a customized website and microsite that will facilitate a pledge process, which will launch on September the 9th. Now, to kick things off, ANC is committing to convert 100 fleet vehicles to battery electric vehicles by 2025. What we are trying to achieve is galvanize a commitment to an energy transition, one that's tangible and that's backed by a hard commitment by a specific endpoint. The campaign is supported by various partners who share the same end goal, and that's simply to accelerate the energy transition. By taking the pledge, businesses will become part of a collective effort that transcends beyond individual organizations. For us, this is about uniting the industry around some tangible actions that we can collectively take and individually take to drive the energy transition in Australia. Look, we're quite excited to have some great partnerships on board already, supporting the campaign before it's even launched. Partners like the Fleet EV News Group, Fleet EV News, World EV Day, Electric Drives, EV subscription business CarBon, LDV Australia, Catch Design all the way from New Zealand, and many others who are equally motivated to see the energy transition take flight.
Okay, so ANC's committing, as you said, to having 100 vehicles in its fleet by the end of 2025. So maybe tell us how they'll fit in, what range of vehicles they might comprise, and how is ANC's fleet made up now, and how many electric vehicles do you operate at the moment?
Yeah, look, great question. Our fleet, our model is quite unique in that it's a flexible model. We run on a capital light basis. We have anywhere between 1,000 and 1,200 vehicles at any given time. And sometimes during really tight economic cycles like we have now, they can go down as low as 800 vehicles as well. Today, our fleet is comprised of light commercial vehicles mainly. There are trucks, taut liners, crane trucks in the top end of town as well, and of course our newest additions, which is the battery-operated tuk-tuks, which we've launched earlier this year. Across the fleet, in fact, if I go back 12 months ago, we only had 2 operating battery electric vehicles in the fleet. As of today, we've now scaled that up to just over 20 battery electric vehicles across the fleet. So we're rapidly making progress. And the heartening thing about all of that, Caroline, is that our independent contractors, our delivery professionals is what we call them, as opposed to drivers, are starting to make the transition and interested, curious, and equally motivated to make the transition and convert their fleet to battery electric vehicles.
It's great that you mentioned the tuk-tuks again, because I was just besotted with the first one I saw at that September 22 launch. How's it going? Because it was part of a trial. So what's happening with the trial? And do you know if you'll be bringing in more of them? And I'm wondering if you've pursued steps to get battery replacement system set up so that the tuk-tuks aren't having downtime when they need to be recharged, so you'll just be able to swap the battery out.
Yeah, great question. Look, the tuk-tuks has been on the road for over 70 days so far as part of the trial. They've done just under 2,000 deliveries, covering an average of 70 kilometers per day across 45 inner city Sydney postcodes. So quite a dense inner city metro coverage area. Approximate kilowatt hours used over the trial period is about 1,000 kilowatt hours across the 2 vehicles. Now that might seem significant, but actually when you think of 1,000 kilowatt hours at about 40 cents per kilowatt, then that's quite impressive when you think about the carbon emissions and the opportunity for carbon offsets given the comparison to that of a brown vehicle. What we found so far in the trial is that the swappable batteries is an absolute advantage. On average, they're doing 70 kilometers per day. We're able to do an in-motion or an in-field battery swap, which is quite a simple process. We found that parking with the tuk-tuks is far more simpler and convenient because they're more maneuverable. And particularly in inner city metros, it just becomes that much easier to park a tuk-tuk versus a conventional vehicle. As for our delivery professionals, they absolutely enjoy the experience delivering in these tuk-tuks. They're quieter, and to be honest, they actually like the fanfare that goes with it as well. Ever so often, we get members of the public stopping and wanting a selfie with the tuk-tuk and our delivery professionals. So, you know, as you were drawn to it, the public's absolutely drawn to it as well. And I think it's fair to say that the trial is progressing well. There's been some teething issues, as with anything. This is an Australian first trial. We're learning rapidly, and some of those learnings is around build quality, vehicle composition, the size and weight of the vehicle. But equally, we're absolutely motivated to and committed to micro-mobility as part of our fleet. We have 2 additional vehicles en route to Australia, and this time it's a different brand of vehicle from a different country as well. And we can see a great future for tuk-tuks and micro-mobility in Australia.
Oh, okay, so just a bit more about them. So the first tuk-tuk was from India, I think from a company, Beliti. So where is this second model coming from?
Yeah, the second model is a Turkish brand coming out of Turkey. They have sold thousands of them in other European countries as well. What's attracted us to the Turkish brand is its build quality and reputation in the European market. We will be experimenting with a non-swappable battery variant, and we'll equally be looking at other battery swappable variants as well. The Beliti brand, being an Indian-built tuk-tuk, we've had some initial challenges with it, But as with anything, these vehicles weren't built for this geography, the density in Australia. So naturally, we're seeing some teething issues around build, topography, and all of those learnings are going into our new iterations with the 2 new tuk-tuks that are en route to Australia, and will absolutely inform our deployment of other vehicles as we progress our micromobility trial.
And the 2 new tuk-tuks en route, are they part of the same trial, like with IKEA?
Yeah, look, we IKEA, from our conversations to date, have demonstrated an interest in micromobility, particularly given their delivery profile. But equally, we've got interest from other clients across our portfolio who are quite keen to explore micromobility. Urban density growth in Australia, apartment buildings are only growing taller, and inner city deliveries are becoming more and more challenging. So we see appetite not only from IKEA, but other clients in our portfolio as well. And in fact, we're getting some inquiries for micromobility and the tuk-tuks further afield from non-customers today as well.
Okay, I'll keep my eye on any developments there. But for now, let's just go back to the push at the moment to get more recognition for the Take the Pledge campaign. So maybe you know who in Australia is on board, and while it's obviously an opportunity to show your hand as an advocate for green transport, is it about more than saying the right things to certain audiences? Who else is on board?
Yeah, look, at this stage, we have a groundswell of interest from a few different parties. We are about to write to all of our clients in our portfolio, but equally, I'd like to invite your audiences to participate. We have a very clear and very simple objective for this Take the Pledge campaign, Caroline. And the first and perhaps the most important one to us is unity. We see this as an opportunity to unite the industry around a bias to action and to do the right thing. The second one is accountability. And I think by taking the pledge, we're driving accountability to make the transition and perhaps to cut past the passivity of waiting for incentives. As we know, most of the incentives for electric vehicles are geared towards passenger vehicles. And we know we have a challenge when it comes to charging infrastructure. And as with anything, when we take the pledge in a public forum, as we are suggesting, I'm sure that you'll be holding ANC and myself to account to deploy these 100 vehicles in market by December 2025. And I absolutely look forward to our next check-in, but equally, members of the public, including the press, will be holding organizations to account to make that transition. The third one really is to prove demand exists for battery electric vehicles. We have some great established but equally newer OEMs with an increasing variety of battery electric vehicles. But there's a genuine TCO gap, and that's a total cost to ownership gap, and it's very real, with green vehicles costing some 2.5 times that of a brown vehicle. So our hope is that we can prove demand and we can see price reduction through increased competition. We think that's a win-win for all. At this stage, we are having some conversations with some of our competitors in this space as well. For us, there would be nothing would give us greater joy than for all of our last mile operators to unite and to take the pledge and to do something tangible to drive the energy transition. But equally, I'd like to call on everyone in market that's got corporate profile that has the ability to either commit one vehicle or many vehicles, whether you have a large commercial fleet, whether you have a small commercial fleet, whether that is a corporate passenger vehicle or a commercial vehicle. Would like everyone to get on board as best as possible.
Well, how actually do people get on board? Like, how's it going to sort of unfurl this thing? Is it already open? Is the website already sort of activated and people can sign up now, or what happens?
Great question. So we've built a customized microsite, which we're launching on the 9th of September. We've got a URL that's befitting of the campaign, and that is www.takethepledge.au. The website will go live on the 9th of September, but we are pre-releasing registrations between the end of this week and the 9th of September. The website serves as a very simple purpose, and that is to facilitate the pledge process. When you navigate the website, you will get asked about your current fleet composition. You'll get asked to make a commitment anywhere between 1 and as many as you'd like fleet vehicles that you'd like to transition by 2025. We will then, that then gets submitted onto the website. You have an opportunity to upload your logo. The website is configured to have a leaderboard as well, and a global tally of the number of vehicles that have been pledged. So it's our hope that on the main page, we'll see a running total of vehicles that are being pledged. And as I mentioned earlier on, when we start the campaign, we will start off with a bang, and that's 100 vehicles already committed and pledged to be delivered and transitioned by December 2025.
Fantastic. I think we need to know a little bit more about ANC itself and the transport tasks you complete. So the type of jobs you do, how you manage to get your employees and contractors on board, or whether it's ANC management has recognised it needs to please to best attract both staff and customers. So, you know, what does sustainability mean to ANC, and what does ANC do?
Yeah, look, ANC is a last mile partner, delivery partner, and I specifically outline that we're a delivery partner. We don't like to call ourselves a logistics organization because we do more than that. We recognize that we're at the pointy end of delivering the delivery promise for the retailers that we are partnered with. So in very simple terms, we partner with retail organizations. We're proud of the fact that we are partnered with some of Australia's most iconic brands, and we fulfill on their last mile delivery promise on the doorstep. We contract to these retailers, and then we contract under our management to delivery professionals, and they are by and largely SMEs who operate their own businesses across Australia. We deliver, we install, we assemble, and in fact, we are now building out our circular economy offering as well to recycle and repurpose to members of society that otherwise might need product that you would otherwise dispose of to landfill. To us, in terms of sustainability, to answer your question, perhaps I'll describe sustainability as I do when I engage with our delivery professionals. And to me, it's got 4 dimensions, really. The first dimension is people, and that is we ask our delivery professionals to act sustainably, and that's simply doing the right thing. Even if that is as simple as offering to recycle packaging or uplift packaging material after completing an installation service. The second one is around process. That's gearing our processes to look for the most efficient way of doing things. And a simple example of this is loading vehicles to maximize efficiency between cubic and weight, as we often max out on cubic before we weigh out. The third dimension is around technology, and this is about us leveraging technology to better route, plan, and manifest deliveries in the most efficient delivery route to reduce carbon emissions. The fourth one is around economics. Ultimately, the economics needs to hang together, Caroline. When it doesn't, you get the type of apathy that perhaps we would have witnessed over the last few years, and often we call these reasonable excuses to maintain the status quo. So the approach we take is perhaps to center the discussion around what's in it for the environment, what's in it for communities, what's in it for our delivery professionals, and what's in it for the end consumer getting a delivery in a green vehicle as an alternative to a brown vehicle.
It's interesting, all of the issues that you just raised, and it sort of goes within my last podcast. A guest raised the issue of reverse logistics. So can you explain what reverse logistics is, why it's talked about a lot, and whether you see strides being made in the quest to carry more goods and less air with each kilometre travelled?
Yeah, I'm assuming your last podcast you're referring to is the one with Heather Bone. I quite enjoyed that podcast, actually, and I I equally think that reverse logistics is an opportunity to make a meaningful difference from a carbon emissions perspective. Quite often, vehicles return to base empty. We are actively looking at new technology and devices installed in our fleet that can give us some data and insights as to how we can better plan reverse logistics and how we can add efficiencies from a delivery perspective, but equally to pass some of those efficiencies on to the clients we serve and ultimately to consumers as well. It is a challenge when vehicles, particularly in those longer range regional deliveries, where vehicles leave the base on a full load and return on an empty load. So reverse logistics ultimately is being able to bring product back from either a consumer's home or back to a client depot. And that is an opportunity, absolutely, that we're looking to collaborate on. And I think trying to solve it in isolation within ANC is probably part of the challenge. So I'd invite anyone across the industry to collaborate with us, because if we can put our heads together, collaborate around how we can effectively address that, and I think that makes a significant difference to the overall sustainable practices within last mile delivery.
Mo, you're obviously really passionate about sustainability. So I always like to ask my guests, to tell our audience a little bit about what path they took to get where they are, what got you involved in sustainability. So can you tell us about how you found your way into setting strategy for a leading transport group and what turned you on in your job?
I love the question. Look, I moved to Melbourne about 18 months ago from Auckland, New Zealand. I spent the last part of my last 6 years in my 20-year tenure in New Zealand with an energy generator and retailer. But I grew up in post-apartheid South Africa, and I'm a naturally curious person. I spent lots of time observing my dad working on cars as a mechanic. I'm not a petrol head myself, but I'll never forget a conversation we had. I asked him why engine oil was draining away into a manhole, and he looked at me rather bewildered with this blank stare and said nothing for about 20 minutes. He later then got a bucket and told me he reflected on what I asked, and that what he was doing was not a sustainable practice, and instead he would drain the oil into a bucket and have it disposed of sustainably back at work. Now, sustainably was a big word for a then 12-year-old, but that's one that grew on me over time. I was later privileged to listen to Al Gore deliver a keynote speech live in San Francisco a few years ago. And to be honest, I went into that presentation on the fence about climate change, but subsequently left the conversation in tears. I was an absolute mess, to be honest with you, Caroline. Wow. His message was super simple. His speech was a rally call, a call to action, all wrapped around the fact that there is no planet B, so it's incumbent on all of us to act. That, together with a desire to break things apart and put it together again, really attracted me to focus on sustainability. And I think I'm in a privileged position at ANC where I can help set company strategy. And there's nothing that gives me greater joy than to know that whatever we're doing is going to make a difference, if not for myself, but then for the future generations after me.
I love how you tell a story where you made a difference at the age of 12 and you're making a difference now. Thanks for your time today, Mo. It was truly a great pleasure to talk with you.
Absolute pleasure, Caroline, and thank you so much for your time today.
And all the best with the new campaign, Take the Pledge. Get on board, everyone.
Get on board indeed. Look forward to it.
You've been listening to Fleet News Group podcast. It was edited and produced by Isabella Fiorentino. You can follow us on Spotify. Just search for Fleet News Group. We're also on Instagram, Facebook and YouTube. Our website is fleetnewsgroup.com, where you can get all of our stories, videos and podcasts. Until next time, drive safely and take care.